So after the Jake Paul vs Mike Tyson fight got postponed to November 15, it was rumored that Jake was going to fight Mike Perry, and now it's 100% confirmed with Jake tweeting 1 mic, 2 mics, 3 mics, 4. The fact is every opponent has touched the floor. 5 months until Tyson and I go to war, so in the meantime me and Perry are going to make Tampa roar. I fear no man anytime any... Bro, does this man think he's Dr. Seuss? What the hell is this? But anyways, this is actually a really hard fight for Jake Paul, no matter what people are saying online. I mean, whenever Jake announces his next opponent, he's gonna receive some hate, but this is honestly his toughest opponent yet. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mike Perry was a UFC fighter who had a respectable record of 14-8, but things really took off for him when he started doing bare knuckle fighting in February 19, and over here he has a record of... I can't find it right now, I'm blind. 5-0, and he beat some pretty big names like Michael Venom Page and Eddie Alvarez. What? He's also ranked number 1 in the middleweight division and number 2 pound for pound, which just shows how good he is, but the only problem is this is gonna be a boxing match and not a bare knuckle fight. And I know they sound the same, you know, you use your fists in both, there's no kicking allowed, no elbowing allowed, no pinching allowed, no biting allowed, but they are 100% different, and Mike Perry actually explained the difference in this clip.
What is the biggest difference about bare knuckle?
So like when I fought Julian Lane, his little fucking head hurt my hands. Cause a lot of the time with boxing gloves on, your hands are like open and you try to close it at the right time. But in bare knuckle, you have to learn how to move while you're tense and keep your hands closed. Because with gloves, you can block a shot like this, but in bare knuckle, you gotta be closed up, tight, and squeezing your fist so hard so that when you hit them in the head, you don't destroy your hand.
This is a totally different thing, and you are uniquely suited for this totally different thing.
And you can actually see that in the Eddie Alvarez fight. I mean, right here, he easily could have got his hands up to block that shot, but he decided to let both of them hit his face, so Eddie's hands get damaged. Now, if you do that in boxing, you may be the dumbest person on the entire planet, so it is definitely way different. But in terms of boxing, Mike Perry actually boxed once before in his life, and he lost. So he's 0-1, and that fight happened around 10 years ago, so he definitely doesn't have that much experience. And this is 100% gonna be seen in the fight. I mean, because bare knuckle is so different than boxing, Mike Perry is gonna have to learn new fighting styles, new techniques that actually work for this fight, because if he doesn't, and he just blocks with his head, he may just see Michael Jackson in under 30 seconds. But in terms of Jake Paul, this is only his second time fighting an actual fighter who's active in the ring, and the only other time he did it was against Tommy Fury, where he lost. So honestly, a big W for Jake Paul for stepping up and not fighting Uber drivers, truck drivers, retirement home people, but his team chooses his opponents so perfectly. I mean, Mike Perry right now has crazy hype behind his name. He's 5-0, he's in his prime, he's beat big names, but Jake Paul knows he can actually win the fight because of that bridging experience between bare knuckle fighting and just straight up boxing. If this was a bare knuckle fight, it wouldn't even be close. Mike Perry would easily win that, but because it's boxing, it's actually way closer than a lot of people think, which makes it scary for both fighters. From Jake's standpoint, Mike Perry is straight up a dog. I mean, I don't think he's ever been knocked down in bare knuckle fighting, so I don't think Jake Paul can knock him down in boxing. He also has crazy power, as you can see from his last fights, where he timed this perfect counter to knock down Michael Venom Page, timed this counter to knock his other opponent down in 30 seconds, and then ended his last fight in 40 seconds by landing a nice left hook. But from Mike's standpoint, Jake Paul has committed 100% of his time to boxing for like 4 years now, so he probably learned a lot of techniques he could use to win this fight, and Mike Perry has only fought once before in boxing, so he might try to use some bare knuckle techniques to win the fight, which won't be as effective. Like, bro, imagine Mike Perry's like, oh, Jake Paul's about to throw an overhand. Mike Perry gets knocked out. Jake Paul's fists are perfectly fine because he's wearing gloves. it's over. GG's in the chat. But in terms of actual boxing rules, you can see here on BoxRec, they have this fight scheduled to be in the cruiserweight division, which has a maximum weight limit of 200 pounds or like 91 kg. And it also says it's 8 rounds instead of like 6 or 10. And this 100% favors Jake Paul just because he's used to fighting for 8 rounds. I mean, he fought Nate Diaz for 10 rounds, so he's not gonna get tired, whereas all of Mike Perry's bare knuckle fights had a limit of 5 rounds, so it was maximum 5 rounds, even though they ended in like 30 seconds. But sorry, I just hit my mic. You may have just heard something weird. My bad. But that just means he may get tired in the later rounds, whereas Jake is going to be perfectly fine. And for the weight, Jake Paul has normally fought at around 200 pounds for like his last 2 to 3 fights. And he was going to weigh like 220, 240 for the Mike Tyson fight. So I'm guessing he's going to go up to 200 pounds for this fight. And Mike Perry's normal weight, I think it's around like 180 to 185. So once again, Jake Paul is weight bullying. Let's go.
What about Mike Tyson? Yes, I am still fighting Mike Tyson November 15th. However, Mike Tyson is one of the baddest men on this planet. He has way more experience than me. He's a killer.
Was one of the baddest men and was a killer. You also forgot to say he's pushing 150 years old while also being in a wheelchair.
Mike Tyson is still coming.
Whoa.
But this train stops for nobody. I fear no man. I will fight wherever, whenever, whoever. I will fight wherever, whenever.
But comment down below what you think about this fight, who's gonna win, how is it gonna end, when is it gonna end, and make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to never miss future videos.